Okay, welcome everyone. Happy to have you all here today. Those of you that can make it, those of you that are watching us virtually, welcome. And I'm just back from the Legal Week conference in New York City, which I was gone Sunday through yesterday. Um, More people coming in. Welcome, Jose. And it was a really interesting conference. I go to a lot of these conferences. This one was, let's see if I can find any information on Legal Week. Uh, and it was just it's a really good conference where we find out a lot about vendors, and the screen is sharing, right? It's showing. Is it showing right now? Is the screen
Yeah.
sharing?
Yes, we can
Yeah,
see it.
yes, it
Okay,
is.
okay, I see. Okay. So, and it shows, and it's all about just different, all the different legal technology that's out there. Most of the time, it is focused around, this year, everything was focused around generative AI. Rob Lowe was the keynote speaker. Huge conference, and then lots of panels where people talk about different legal tech subjects, right? Mostly around this year implementing Gen AI, which Gen AI tools are the best, you name it. I mean, fostering inclusiveness, building your team. What are the skills of the future? All those kinds of things were topics of that. During the week, it's a really great opportunity to build relationships with vendors that you may not always get a chance to talk with or make deals on software because all the decision makers end up in one room. So I've always been a fan of Legal Week. Other big conferences, one I think that's even better than this one is ILTA. ILTA is a fantastic, another giant conference where they get 5,000-6,000 people or more. And then there's a lot of smaller regional ones that come into play, like Masters Conference, Solid. I think there's one called EDM that tend to be a lot smaller in size. We're putting on our freebie conference, mini conference on April 12th. In conjunction with the Cal Lawyers Association, Women in E-Discovery, and the college. And it's a mini conference where you can get some exposure to some of the legal tech tools that are out there. We're going to do kind of a resume review for people. I think we're going to conduct mock interviews, that kind of thing. So if that's something that interests you, bring your resume. I would bring a copy on a thumb drive as well, just in case we give
Can
you
we
some
bring our
ideas.
computer so we could work
Yeah,
on it? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, absolutely. So happy to provide. There it is. Okay, now I see where the stop share went. Okay.
I had a question because I saw an interesting article and it was Bill Gates talking about AI and the
Yeah.
future. And I don't know
Oh,
if you
it
read
says
it.
like 99% of the jobs are going to be gone.
Yeah. So that kind of scares people off, reading something like that from Bill Gates. So
Yeah,
how was that mentioned in the conference, or how
yeah. People
stuff
talked
like
a
that?
lot about that. Yeah, I mean, uh, I guess my answer is I don't know. I don't tend to agree with that. You need, our world is built on people working and paying for services, and I don't know that, you know, I don't know about universal basic income for everybody. How does that work? How does that switch work? But yeah, that's what he said. He said 99% of jobs are going to be taken care of by AI at some point in the future, near future. I was surprised how soon. Did he say like 10
Yeah,
years?
10 years. So I was like, oh my God. But it doesn't in reality, it doesn't make sense. Let's say family law, it's so personal, and you need a human instinct with it that it's in my opinion, it's kind of not logical to think that we're there
Well,
yet.
there's a there's a guy named Richard Susskind. He's a very big legal tech author. I really like the stuff that he writes. And he kind of predicted a lot of this in some of his books. Um, yeah, he said decline of today's profession. I don't know if that's exactly perfect, but our rates are going up. I mean, we have attorneys going from 2,000 to 2,500 an hour, and that rate continues to climb. So I don't know just yet if they're ready to replace those guys. I mean, certainly the guys making 2,500 an hour. Maybe somewhere there's room for those guys to get a hit somewhere, but it always seems to hit the lower level people, such as myself. Uh, Gen AI is pretty good at a lot of what it does. If you're talking about family law, um, there's a lot of decision-making systems people are creating that would basically create a that acts like a judge or an arbitrator. So imagine a system where instead of you spending, weeks with your attorney and all the expense and fees that go along with that, um, spending an hour with your attorney and writing out your story. The other side writes out their story. It goes into the system and it turns out a result, right?
Yeah, but um, you know, looking at family, a lot of those high conflict cases, they can't even be solved by, with years in court. So I don't see how just one AI generation could fix those cases.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree. I mean, there's got to be that human element still involved, and how's an AI gonna, you know, admonish someone for not doing their part or not paying their child support or something like that, right? Um, so I don't know. I think there's certainly a lot of room for all the low hanging fruit to kind of get taken care of by AI, and come up with decisions that maybe go over to it. Makes maybe if you think of how clogged the courts are, you still have the judge and he gets a recommendation from the AI, right? Here's what you should do. Bang, bang. He reviews it and agrees with it, or says, no, we're going to do something a little different because this guy's a jerk, or the flavor of what this person's story is off, right?
Yeah, but
Uh,
how partial are gonna be those decisions?
well, maybe sometimes the decisions need to be a little partial, right? I mean,
Isn't it the whole thing that sometimes people, well, in our case, in workers' comp, sometimes we'll look for judges like they're more attorney friendly instead of
yeah,
defense friendly and all those things. That with AI, you kind of eliminate all that.
you eliminate a lot of the bias, right? Unless there's programming bias, which we find all the time, right? Um, uh, you know, I think AI is getting better if you before, if you searched, like Dolly is the image tool for ChatGPT, and if you searched and said, uh, give me, let me see if I have it. Hold on. Let's see. Before, if I said, show me a room full of attorneys, and I'll illustrate what I'm saying here in a second here. We'll see if it's a room full of white guys or not. I don't think it will be. there's some diversity in here, but you know, it's a little bit better than what it was. Before you would get like a room full of just white guys, right? And you see there's different, not a whole lot, you know, some different cultures represented here. Looks like you can never really 100% tell who everybody is, but you know, certainly there's not a what if I say show me a diverse a room full of diverse attorneys.
Well, I think that well, I mean, I do read a lot, but I think right now I did read that the law school submissions is up. Generally, I guess, you know, a lot of people are feeling motivated to go, you know, become an attorney. So that's another reason why we're seeing more diversity there too. More applications from everywhere, you know, people, I think it happened to you know, in 2017, the applications for law school went up, and I read that right now they're up too. So, you know, law schools have more applications to look at.
Yeah, you know, without speaking to what's the right way to choose who's the law student and that kind of thing. You know, the point, you know, point of looking at this is that Gen AI doesn't really create a like. I don't know that this is a room full of diverse attorneys. I don't see a black person in here. It might be this might be a Hispanic lady in the maybe she's African American. I don't know, but it didn't really do what I asked it to do, right? I don't see any Asian people in here. Sorry, Paul.
So I guess
You know what
when
I
you
mean?
say
Like,
diverse, maybe he thought it was just men and women. That's some type of
yeah,
diversity.
Maybe you should have
See, I
said
guess you have to go like more
California or New
specific.
York. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, and certainly there's not a, you know, man, all these people in here hit the gym every day, and I don't see age diversity. You know, I don't see a lot of different areas of diversity that could be mentioned, right? And so that's kind of the point of the bias of the system is that you don't really see unless you really um, doing much, right? So if I say I would like to see a diversity of cultures, let's see, ages and body shapes. And so, you know, the point being, if this can't create, you know, and if this can't create something that is um, diverse without three questions being asked to it, there's some inherent bias into it. And geez, come on. Um, Here's cultures, ages, and body sizes. But for writing, it's fantastic. You know, I mean, I'll tell you an exercise I did. I put a bunch of publicly available Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case information into it. And then I asked it, did the judge reach or the jury reach the right result? I don't remember that. I guess it's down right now. I asked it if the right result was reached, right? And it said no. The right result was not reached. And it gave the reasons why um why why that was not a diverse result. I mean, right, why that was not the correct result.
Well,
So go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, but I think, well, a lot of times when, plaintiffs or defendants go into court, they're telling their version of the story that obviously makes them look good, and it might not be the truth. So that's, AI, is it really picking up, those abusive people, or those, people just lying there? So that's where my thing is, like, I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I don't, hold on 1 second. Uh, let's play with this for a second. Give me a second. Pretend you are a family court judge. Okay. Please tell me what you would recommend, right? Throw out some things for a abusive father who is a drug user, that makes 100,000 a year and wants full custody of his children. The mother is let's say, something just totally altruistic. Is a nun and works with the homeless. She is widely lauded for her heart and the amazing way she cares for her children.
Does family code 33044 pop up, where it's not in the best interest of the child to be with the abusive parent?
Yeah, no, it totally came up with that result. The father should not be granted full custody but he must first complete a substance abuse rehab program, submit to regular drug testing, undergo anger management, supervised visitation. I mean, for crappy facts, that's pretty okay. Now, how about okay, a new scenario. Both mother and father are drug abusers who are in rehab. They both make 100,000 a year, and are in a year. They have 2 kids, age 10, 8. The kids want to live with their grandparents. This guy's a real in a different state. I'm just throwing out weird facts. Let's see how it comes up with this result. So temporary custody to the grandparents, supervised visitation, follow-up hearing in 6 months, right? 6 months later, little is changed, but the parents have been sober for 5 days. Doesn't like it only 5 days. Okay. Okay. How about 2
What
weeks?
about if the dad has other kids from other relationships and and the case is in another county and he's, committing
Yeah,
abuse.
yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. See, that's where I'm kind of like,
Okay.
how are they going to pick up other cases or
The father also has a child from a different relationship that lives with him. Wants to know the age, but it's asking good questions, right?
Well, I think that's the thing is you have to provide the information or the right questions in order for it to reply to you because it's not gonna know
Right.
all the things.
Right. We're just playing here. We're just throwing out some basic scenarios to see the
the
logic that comes up.
accuracy? Yeah.
But it's not, does not appear to be unlike, what a judge might say. Um, so, I would have to fully do this, and I'd encourage everyone to play with it on Chat GPT, come up with some scenarios and go through it.
I think it does kind of help the judges in some way because I had a scenario in my personal situation where I had a family court case here in Orange County
Yeah.
and the other party tried to move it to LA and we had a hearing, and I did a change of venue because I was obviously stating that Orange County was the correct venue. And the judge had fairly been appointed recently to family law. So
Yeah.
he didn't, he was, while the hearing was going on, he's like, I need to look at the code and the statute, even though it was on the memorandum. But, I think, for a judge who's barely kind of coming into family law court or any type of court, this could be useful because it could, right away give them the basic statutes or whatnot that they need to
Right.
be looking at.
Right. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It all depends on the facts, and you still need that lawyer, right? You still need that lawyer so that
They could argue for your
yeah,
best
yeah,
interest.
they can do all that. And so if you have that, then but the point really is efficiency, right? That I save 90% of my time, right? And so I can take on more cases, and it costs people less, and it provides access to justice for people.
So last week I attended a meeting, I forgot, with the owner of NLCTA through the OCPA.
Yeah.
And he stated because of AI kind of condensing attorney work, attorneys are probably going to go into charging flat fees for services. Let's see, a motion, just start like 5,000 for this motion, a petition 3,000 because AI it's unethical for them to bill like thousands of dollars for something that they could generate with AI in 20 minutes. So we're going to start seeing flat fees.
Yeah, you might start seeing flat. Well, we already do flat fees. I don't know that it's hit like the general legal market, but I'll tell you, a friend of mine who's retiring is creating a marketplace, right? And it's really meant for access to justice to people who don't have access to legal services. And think about like trying to get a trust created, right? And a lot of lawyers might charge 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 bucks to create a trust. And the reality is someone with low, without a lot of means, probably isn't going to spend 5,000 or 10,000 to create a trust, and that maybe what they need is a $250 trust, right? And he's creating this marketplace where AI kind of does all the documents for them and gets it all together, and the attorney just reviews it and then gets it pushed through. And so there's benefits to the consumer because they end up being able to get that trust done at a very reasonable cost. And the attorney, whatever you're retired and you just, want to make a couple of bucks, you can go onto the marketplace and take on a couple of trusts or expungements or whatever it is that you want to do. And it seems kind of like a win-win for everybody, right? A great way to bump up your bottom line if you're looking for a little extra work, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think what this ultimately does is, for like a firm like ours, Munger Tolls, the way that we're looking at it is that yeah, it's going to bring some efficiency. It'll bring some major efficiency to us. But that also might mean that, and everyone says, oh, you'll go from 40 hours a week working to 30 hours, the Bill Gates idea, 40 hours to 5. And the reality for us is maybe that ends up, maybe we go from 70 hours to 30 hours or 20 hours. And then they realize, oh, they're only working 20 hours. So either they take on 3 times the amount of work that they can do right now because we turn away work, or they get rid of some people and it balances out. Both of which I think is terrible. One of those I think is terrible. Right?
Yeah, it's I think, and it's for all fields, doctors, teachers. It's
Well, your doctor, I mean, doctor and teacher and everything else, I see huge benefits for a doctor. When I go to my doctor, I'm waiting in my insurance, I'm waiting in there too long, right? Too long while the doctor documents what happened in the whoever their previous patient was. Too long while they try and figure all that up. Maybe I get a bad result because they think it's something and they didn't consider all the different things that could be wrong with me. And I, for one, would welcome a doctor having it, like you kind of see decision-making systems now, at least I go to Hogue with Cigna Insurance, and they push in a little computer and they put all my symptoms into the computer, and I think it's prompting them with different possibilities, right? And I don't mind that addition to my course of care. And I especially don't mind it if it ends up getting me out of that office faster, right? Because I don't want to wait 45 minutes or an hour, different from my appointment time, which I find myself doing all the time.
Yeah, I also know like people that do therapy, and it's all AI generated, and from what they told me, they feel like there's less judgment when they're uh therapy and stuff like that. So they find it a lot better, more comforting than not going to an actual psychiatrist or doctor.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find stuff. Hold on. Oh wait, I did with family court. Hold on.
But don't you still need people, train people to know how to work all this thing and understand? Don't you think the school should be not gearing to try to teach
Yes, I
kids
think
all
people
these
should.
things?
Yeah. Yes, you need people to run it. And the counter argument to what Bill Gates said is his own product. People lost their minds when Microsoft Excel came out, right? They thought the accountant profession was going to go away, right? And it didn't. It actually helped grow accountancy greatly, right? I mean, and there's all kinds of services that you can get when it comes to doing your taxes at the end of the year, which reminds me, I have to do my taxes. But some people go buy a program, right? That didn't destroy every accountant that's out there, and a program that you can just put your numbers in. And that program is probably good for a very big percentage of people that are out there. And and then there's still high-end accountants, and there's giant consultancies like Ernst & Young and companies like that. So we didn't see accounting go away because Excel came in and made it easier to do math and addition and calculate things. Um, you know, the shopping malls, those are disappearing. That a lot of them are getting kind of reconstituted into other things. Um, South Coast Plaza still just one of the strongest Fashion Island, two of the strongest shopping malls in the country. Right down the street is what is it, Westminster Mall, Huntington Beach Mall. That's dead, right? So uh, that's all as a result of online shopping and everything else. And it's all, what is it now? All high end. It's mostly super high end stores, right, in the mall now. Things you can't necessarily find online. Okay. Any questions before we kind of go on into some of the lecture today? I'm going to cover processing. Questions, comments? A lot of the stuff is due on Monday the 31st for all the first 3 modules of the class. I did change one thing. Thank you, Krista, for letting me know so that students could, hold on. For module 3, assignment unit 3, an interview with George Sosha. Just whether presentation phase should be included in the EDRM. And get it's just a small writing assignment. So upload it. I changed it so the file upload works. And you should be able to put it in. This is an interesting one for me because I'm on the revision committee for EDRM. It stands for, it's the thing we've been going through the electronic discovery reference model. It's this thing. We're about here as we discuss it. But some people wanted to do away with presentation. They didn't think it was e-discovery enough. Some wanted processing moved over here, over to, they want to collapse some of these processes into one single process that covered all 3 of them. And I threw a fit about that because I think it's important that you guys know distinctly what each one of these phases does and how they work. And it's been a really interesting process with lots of people bumping heads and all that kind of thing. So there's for that. We've gone over one, 2 modules 1 and 2 in the past. And for this, it is just just make some posts and use one concept from at least 3 of the 6 categories in a sentence. So this should be a pretty easy one. It is important to preserve the metadata in a case. Forensic collection preserves the metadata, right? You can really knock a lot of these things out fairly easily. Let's see. More on the EDRM. And again, these are just posts. What is the EDRM? What are the positive and negatives to resizing the phase boxes of the EDRM, as George Sosha discusses in this article. There's the link, and what he says basically in this article is that one way another way to look at the EDRM might be to size the boxes in terms of their costs or importance to the process. So, review is actually dominates the EDRM in terms of cost and the role that it plays in there. I'm not a fan of this approach. And he just advocates for a couple different ways to visually look at it, and that's all I'm looking for. And again, I don't expect you to spend a whole lot of time on these things. Just spend some time and read the article and tell me, what is the EDRM, and what are the positives and negatives of resizing those boxes, and it should be all right. Next, I'm sorry. And that's it. That's it for that. A second. And do just a little on processing today, and then we'll be done. And if you have any questions, you can ask me any questions you want. I think we went through collecting from it. Help me find where we were at. We went through collecting from a database, right? Where we talked about you might want to just export fields or create a form that would export the records. Did we talk about that?
I believe so.
And don't just say we talked about it so I pass it and you don't have to hear me talk. Forensic inspection tools, specialized software that yeah, we talked about this, right? I think we kind of stopped right around here. What does deleted mean, right? Deleted items that, you have your little trash can, it has deleted items. If you don't empty that out, we can get your deleted items there. There could be stuff from that the administrator looks at. And then of course, when you have your hard drive, the hard drive basically writes writes to a sector on the hard drive. I forget the size units that it does that, but it does it in these little chunks. And all that happens when they you tell your computer to delete something, it just says you can overwrite this section. So if those sections have not been overwritten, you can go back and restore the entirety of it or a portion of it. The thing that was most shocking to me on that is that you can get a portion of it. Like you might just get the text from the body of the message. That might be enough, right? We go through how we're going to collect it, who's going to collect it. Is it a third party? Is it my vendor? Is it your vendor? What can they look at? How are they going to do that? How's it going to be returned? For how long? That's pretty typical. I'm not going to go into cross-border collection very much, if at all. It's basically per country. Not reasonably accessible. Nothing de facto, not reasonably accessible. What does it mean? Cost of accessing is expensive. Cost of conversion is expensive. Cost of review could be business disruption. Lots of different things. got to show relevance, value to litigation. Maybe maybe the cost burden might shift. Could do sampling or an index. You know, costs and impact that. Do we need to travel there? Increasingly, we do a lot of this stuff virtually. So we send someone a hard drive that has some software already on it, and walk them through the process on a shared screen, like a Zoom, right? Other times the case is lofty enough that we send someone on site, and they may not be happy about it, to collect and do all that. It's important that each one of these decisions are documented. We've talked about that quite a bit. Why are you collecting 3 locations for one custodian and 7 locations for another custodian? So documenting your decision-making process and putting it in a memo, which is also billable, by the way, is very important, because in retrospect, 3 years from now, you're not going to remember. You might not even work at that company anymore, that firm. So having that documented is really important. Again, volume is the most significant cost driver. So volume meaning the more you do, the more more it's going to cost. There's a lot that we talk about around whether we're going to do what's called a targeted collection or a full forensic. Targeted is where we just know which folders it goes into, and full forensic is, remember, the one where we get the whole drive. The volume of data we collect. It's important that we come up with match our process to the case and its budget. It may not, if you go back to my Girl Scout cookie analogy that I always use, do you need to collect the person's entire computer and everything that's out there if you're looking for potentially 20 emails that were sent in March 2024? And the answer typically is no. We're going to say, okay, these emails, that means we just need to collect their email. That's all we care about. We don't think they created any papers or paper trail or anything like that. We're just collecting their email. Okay, processing. Processing is where we take, so you've collected these electronic files, right? And you have it on an external drive of some kind, right? And it's just like the files on they are the files on your computer. And processing uses another software called processing software, and what it does is it converts those electronic files into an electronic record, and it extracts those different metadata fields. Remember, we had some fun with going through the metadata, of some of these documents. Like my friend Kaylee Walstead was the main author, and I modified it, and different metadata around it, when it was created, that kind of thing. And all that data is fielded into a database, meaning the author is put into an author field. The date it was created is put in the create date field, a sent date field if it was emailed, modified dates. We do a lot around date, and so it's very important. Maybe I'll do some sort of tutorial on it. Sounds dumb in a way, but all the different dates that are involved with these cases are the things that a lot of your searches will surround. So what if this document, so you saw that this document was created in 2019, right? What if this document was some template and it was created in 2019 and all I did is update it, or I sent it, or I did something wrong with it, whatever it is, and just copied and pasted this into an email, um, or provided it to someone some way. And my search said, "Oh, I'm just looking for files." And the case issue happened in 2024, and I just do a search for 2024 stuff. May not come up, right? Because it may not be attached to an email. It may not. It may not. It may be kind of lost in the system when it comes to metadata dates. So understanding the different dates becomes really important, because you may be wanting to look at email sent dates, or the creation date of different files. And so we're always looking at it a couple different ways to make sure that we're catching everything that we need to catch. Search terms are one way we call this down. Deduplication, I'm going to talk about that in a second. There's a tendency to overcollect information, and so processing presents an opportunity to cull that data and limit the volume of information that the legal team will look at. The first and easiest method that is universally applied is denisting, which we talked about. It's the National Institute of Standards and Technology from the Department of Congress. It refers to the list that they create and update 4 times a year of file types that don't have evidentiary value, like exe files, system files, font and help files. So they're just excluded outright from processing. Other common methods are date, domain, and keyword. Domain, so we're looking everything from Girl Scouts of America, right? So we look at that in the so Paul at Girl Scouts of America, or Myra at Girl Scouts of America. We're looking for everything from there. We might do an exclusionary, remove everything from Amazon, remove everything from FedEx, whatever it is. Deduplication or deduping refers to removing duplicate records from the data set, and that can be done within custodians or across custodians. We tend to dedupe based on family group, which I'll talk about in a second, rather than an individual file. So if you think of, you probably have a bunch of backups of your phone or of your computer somewhere. We don't want to see that same file 5 or 6 times. So we want to see it dedupe out. Likewise, I think I gave an example of the Girl Scout cookies. We all get a Girl Scout cookie email. I don't need to see that same email 5 times. Processing will simply add us all as custodians to that record, so that we know that 5 of us received the exact same email. When we talk about family, so the family group of an email is the email itself, right? You write an email, and then all the attachments are the children, right? So the parent is the email, the children are the attachments. And when we're looking to deduplicate, we typically create a hash value based on the entirety of the family. Remember, that hash value is that mathematical formula applied to a document so that it has its own individual value, but also a family. When we do the thing I just explained, where with the Girl Scout cookie, and then it may have the email comes out, buy my Girl Scout cookies, right? And then the attachment is an order form. That's a child. The attachment is maybe a flyer that says, here's all the different colorful cookies that we have. Of course, everyone knows, and it's common knowledge, that Thin Mints are the best, and there's no questions about it. maybe I should do something graded on that. But you know, making sure if we all receive that same exact thing, that it's treated the same and the duplicates are removed. It's not the same if we all receive that package and then Myra forwards it over to her cousin, right? That's now a different email altogether because there's a fourth email, right?
New family.
Yeah, it's a new family. Myra, you're creating families all over the place. You know, when we review these documents as well, we typically try to keep the family together. How nice. So we look at things and we do duplicate as a family. There's specialized software that does processing. We do it, vendors do it. We do most of it through a vendor. We do some small scale stuff ourselves. One of the most important things that you can look at as a paralegal that often goes overlooked is the error log, right? And the error log are the things during processing are the things that did not get a database record out of it. What are some common error log issues? Number one, that the file is corrupt. Okay. You want to, if you find out that you have a file is corrupt and it looks like something that might be important, you might send your forensic vendor back. You may look for other versions of it, right? You may see who else has it. But we've done very large searches, subsequent searches of different places, clients, to see if they had a different version of that document that was not corrupt. Second, passwords. So this is quite common as well. That the document has a login or a password to be able to open it. We have some methods to break those logins and passwords, but most of the time we need to go back to the custodian to get it. And so yeah, if a lot of people don't review that, and they're just end up missing lots of really important information that could be important to their case. Let me say one other file type right now. The other file type that we're talking about now is called the right way to talk about it. People refer to them as modern attachments, but they're not attachments at all. So we call them hyperlinked files. So where in my first example, the Girl Scout email went with 2 physical attachments to the email, and so you have a parent and 2 children. Many of us now are just sending emails and you have a link, right? You have a link to the glossy flyer, you have a link to the order form. And, courts right now do not think of them as attachments because there's not a automated way in which those files can be they can be collected in an automated way, but they can't be associated in an automated way. Moreover, when you have a physical attachment, that's the version as it existed when it was sent. Whereas a hyperlinked file going back to a DMS, someone could have overwritten it or added different comments or done or not created different versions as they went, right? So the courts right now don't think of them as attachments, and they're treated completely separately because it's very difficult to put them back together. It has to be often done manually, and that's a lot of work. So they're treated separately. Any questions on hyperlinked files? Okay, early case assessment, ECA. So one of the things that we're going to go through is a pricing exercise, how to create an estimate for for your e-discovery jobs. And there are tools out there called early case assessment tools. And what they're doing is what they do is allow you to take a look. It still processes your data. It's kind of a little bit of a scam in a way. You process your data in at a very low rate into a database that is not fully featured, right? It's it's like what is it? Is it Tesla where you have to pay extra for all the different features, but they still exist within the car? So it's the same thing.
Hidden fees,
Huh?
kind of like hidden fees.
Well, it's not a hidden fee. It's a certain, the data is getting processed into the database. They could just as easily process it into the review database and you do the same thing. But this allows for price differentiation.
Like
And
premium
so,
price, premium
huh?
like a premium access.
Well, an ECA database allows you to kind of take a look at the data and take what we call the big knife. And so you cut all the junk, all the stuff in our example, all the stuff that's clearly not related to the Girl Scout cookie case. So we're not going in record by record. We save that for document review, but we might say, remove everything from this date. Remove, we only want to take a look at emails and attachments. Okay. Uh, let's do some keyword searching for some more inclusion. And we're using this to work up the data for a set that's going to be further analyzed and reviewed by document review people. And so ECA basically allows you to eliminate non-essential ESI for cost and time reduction. Again, I don't know. To me, it's always been kind of a wink because they're processing basically into the same tool, and then that doesn't have all the features. And then you say, okay, these are the records I want promoted. So the process of promotion is taking those records that you decided you want to keep and promoting them up for review. One thing that's good about kind of this separation is that it allows you to be very focused in your review database on the records that you've already found can be more important. And then secondly, if your issues change in your review database or you need to expand your search, you still have the data in your ECA database. And you can search and promote data incrementally, or there's a number of different strategies we use to get that data promoted into the system. But basically, if you think of it as the big knife, and allows us to move data over and document what we chose. More importantly, it documents what we chose and what we didn't choose. Your processing must be examined and tested. What is captured for review? What is eliminated from further review? That's all documented in the ECA database. And again, that could change over time with your case, and a lot may allow you to may mean that you have to go back and take multiple bites at the apple back in the ECA database. And if it's not in the ECA database, you may have to go back and collect more people, right? So again, it's it's this process, right? I put it the wrong one. It's this, right? So you're up here at processing and review, and you go, oh my gosh, I need to go back to my ECA database. And, oh, the ECA database doesn't have anything on this topic. I need to go back and collect some more people. I might need to identify and collect from more people to keep moving forward with my case, or to be able to swing with how the case has changed over time. Search terms, again, it helps us cut down the amount of data, and gets us where we need to be. So if you think of every process in here is associated with a cost, and the more volume that you have, the more data that you have, things get more and more and more expensive. So we're highly motivated to cut data. And again, sometimes we realize, oops, we cut too much and we need to go back to that ECA database and get some more. We have very simple and very complex search terms. I have one database that's just killing my people because it has over 400 search terms just in one search, and we have to do 250 of them or something like that. 400 words in this search with proximity and all side kinds of things going on. So it's really, really complex.
So does it, like, when you're in the middle of the process and you have data and then you start sending out subpoenas and you start locating those third parties of people that are involved, do you modify the system or like with that new information or?
Well, if the issues change, right, we're gonna, we need, it depends on how it goes, right? So if we find out we need to go back and get more custodians to talk about the same issue, we're going to go back through the EDRM, right? Um, but oftentimes the issues change in the case halfway through because of what you've discovered in your document review. So you really have to go, again, it's the EDR model is the best, where you, again, have to go backwards to re-review records, take another look at them, and make coding decisions on those records based on what those issues are. So, and I'll pause for a second here. Just to make sure people know, so document review is where, and well, two things. We hire groups of people, sometimes hundreds of people, to review records to find out if they're responsive to a production request, right? And whether those documents have various privilege that would allow us to withhold them. So, think about having an army of document reviewers that are charging for their time and going through record by record. They do anywhere from 30 to, depending on the criteria, 30 to 60 records an hour.
That's where you get all your overtime.
You get all your overtime, right? But they're reviewing these records and making a call on it. So why we're trying to reduce that volume, we don't want to hire 100 temporary reviewers for a month. We want them there for a week. And so, that's one of the things that really changes with, it's one of the things that really, the efficiency of your review is the thing that ends up, because it's so expensive to do, maybe a differentiator in your services as a law firm that makes you win or lose the case, or win or lose the client. Sorry, and it's important. So you can't take these things lightly. If you have firm A and firm B and you're priced basically the same, but one firm is invested in technology and they know the process and procedure, and their document review ends up costing $100,000, all things being equal with the lawyer fees. And then, firm B, they don't care about it. They don't ever negotiate anything on price. They collect vast volumes of information, don't use early case assessment tools, and their document review costs $500,000. It becomes incrementally more expensive to use firm B, and and you lose your client, not based on the quality of your legal services, but on the efficiency of your process, right? Uh, Proximity searches, I'm sure you're all kind of aware of that. That's where you say, cat within a certain number of words of dog, maybe within the same paragraph or document or whatever.
Yeah, that's, when you're going through a deposition or a transcript and it's easy just to type in the word and, boom, get what you need.
Right, but a lot of times we're getting really complex with these searches so that we are looking for words that appear close to each other, because we're dealing with just volumes that are just incredible in terms of millions and millions of documents. There's wildcards and stemming, which are different variations of search terms. Stop words. We don't really use a lot of stop words anymore. Sometimes we game the index of the database, the thing that the database looks at when it's searching, with the addition of some. We sometimes mess with our dictionaries so that it's more easily searched. Of course, we specify, and it's very important that you understand how the software works. If I had my relativity on this computer, I'd show you, but hold on. When relativity when relativity, there's two things that go really wrong with a lot of document review software. So as it loads you creates the case, and here's a folder, and it loads the data. One organizational method would be date and custodian. So we collected Paul on February 1st, and we processed his data here. Then we collected Myra, and we have a folder on the same line, same level with Paul's, dated a week later. And then we collect Jose a week after that, and we process his data, and he's in a folder, same level underneath that. A lot of people make one of two mistakes. They either go to the Myra folder, right? And this is just one organizational method. They go to the Myra folder either on purpose or by mistake, and don't realize that they're only searching within that folder and not everything. You need to search by going to the top level folder. That gets you everything. The other thing that they do is they go to the Myra folder because they think only Myra records will be in there, and that's often not the case. And the reason why is when we process records, it's first in time. So if we since we process Paul's records first, he's the one that's going to have the Girl Scout cookie email with the family attachments in his email. And when if Myra has that same email, it's going to be deduped out, and she'll be added to Paul's the record that's in Paul's folder under all custodians for that. And that ends up causing a lot of problems for people when they think that a document might be in there and they're not. Also, how do you search for images? And let me share my screen. How do you do things like search for images? And if you're searching, are you searching the right field, the right date field? Often it's the wrong date. People use the wrong date field, and they search the wrong date field looking for something, and maybe they search the create date instead of the sent date or received date of an email. So yeah, we see a lot of issues around that. Are they bringing in let's say you search for Girl Scout cookie and it shows up in the email, but it doesn't show up in the attachments. So a lot of times there's a toggle where when you return results, it brings the entire family, because you're probably going to want to look at the context of the record by bringing in the entirety of the family. So understanding how that software works is very important. Images, do you have a database full of images with text on them, and has that image been OCR'd so that the text is in a field so that you can find it? Otherwise, you shouldn't assume it's in there. These are things that you, as the paralegal, may want to do some QC checking on when you're receiving data, right? Like, find that image file that has text that should have been OCR'd. Is that data in the field? Look at some records and compare the data on the face of the document and the field of data. Does it match up? Do some of the family groups look right? If you go find a really long document, is all of that text fielded in the database? Because sometimes databases will cut off the text in the database. So a lot of things can go wrong. So reviewing that error log, checking out your database, just kind of becoming familiar. And I think that saying things like that to your legal team, let me become a little familiar with the database. I'm going to look at a couple records, and then I can start performing your searches. That's a perfectly great thing to say. How do you formulate search terms, witness interviews, talking to your attorneys, nicknames? So, in emails, a lot of times, people put an alias for people. So, my name's Shannon Bales. I might have an email address out there that says Oklahoma Football 1 or something like that. And so it's important that you know all those other permutations of the email, because that might get processed in as Oklahoma 1 instead of Shannon Bales, and you're not going to find the emails from Shannon Bales because it processed in as Oklahoma 1. And I see that a lot. So as you're going through, and there are technologies that allow those to be consolidated, but a lot of people don't implement them. So that if you search for Oklahoma 1, it brings up Shannon Bales and vice versa.
How about
And
for acronyms?
yeah, same thing. Just finishing up with the aliases. It can also be someone might have put me in their email as S Bales, right? Or SB. And so all these things, kind of becoming familiar with how I'm referred. You might go down the custodian list and see if there's 20 different versions of Jose, right? And if they're the same person, maybe that's something you want to fix in the database. And what was your question, Jose? Acronyms? Yeah, like
Yeah, what about acronyms? Because a lot of people now just go easy, use
yeah,
acronyms more.
yeah, like IBM. If you're trying to do searches for international business machines, you better search for IBM and international business machines. So your searches start to get really big. Why do I have a search with 400 words in it? Because it'll say something like IBM or international business machines or business within two of machines. All these things that we do to make sure that we find everything that we're looking for. Of course, another whole topic, searching for privilege, doing privilege searches, and getting things organized for review. We also use a number, when we're in review, we use technology assisted review to help us often prioritize the documents that the computer thinks are going to be more relevant and more important to the search. And that's not reflected in this presentation. Got to do a lot of analysis, talking to people about, making sure people are agreed on the search terms, bring in your technology people, making sure that your search terminology is legit. Data deduplication, we've talked a lot about this one. A lot of dedupes happen. So we all work at the same company. We're going to have a lot of common email. We talked about the hash value being the way that they determine that. A duplicate and a near duplicate is it means that you have a document that's very close to the original. In my example, where Myra forwards the email to her cousin, and all she puts is FYI in it, FYI, and there's the full body. It's still a different email, but there's a lot of technology that identifies near dupes and gives you a percentage. So if you're looking for all similar documents, you may say, give me everything that's 90% similar to this doc, and that would bring up the email forwarded to the cousin. Email threading, an email thread is the entirety of the conversation that occurs back and forth and all the different versions. You're trying to make sure that you have everything in the email thread. What's deduping within or across custodians? It's where we're going across and making sure that we don't have the same document all the time. I've already discussed the potentially misleading presentation of documents because they get deduped out. That's it on processing. Stop my share. Any questions about processing today? Any other question? Hold on. Is the processing team made up of both technical and legal people? I would say 90+% of the time, the processing team are all technical people. It's all the technical people typically, but there is a movement. Well, actually, let me take a step back from that. Let's call it 80-20 because there's a number of tools now that allow people to do some self-processing. So they basically put the documents in a folder and the system catches them and processes them into the database. So yeah, there's a lot. So there are a lot of self-service type processing situations nowadays. Yeah. I think it's a really complex thing to do though, because of the error logs and the exceptions and how does it render certain things. I don't always love it. I think it should stay with tech. Any other questions?
Would you say that after completing this course, we would be ready to take the relativity exam?
Well, it's not a course in relativity. I think you could, with a little bit of study, do the Relativity Gen AI exam. There's the Relativity Review Pro. Maybe I'll have Janice Holman from Relativity come speak, and she can give her opinion on that. Let me see what I can find out.
Okay, because
But we're not. But since we're not, going deep into relativity, it's one of the things I'm advocating for here at SAC is to do an actual relativity course. I think that would be great, and I think you guys should express that desire to Santa Ana College.
Are you going to be teaching any e-discovery courses in the BA program?
Probably. I don't know just yet, but probably. We're working on that, and it's really. I've brought in relativity and Santa Ana College. It's just that there's so much to do at this point that we're trying to figure out what are the priorities.
Understood. I just wanted to see. I was like, well, I have the summer off, so I might as well get some certifications there.
We'll talk more about that. Let me see if I can get someone to talk about certification.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, guys. It's good good to see you all. I appreciate you being here. Let's see, next weekend I will post. I'm going to continue to post on Fridays, whether I'm going to be in person or not. And then I'm gonna make an attempt to come in I make an attempt to come in on Saturdays, but sometimes life happens. So and again, there's no extra credit or anything like that. I just enjoy seeing the students and talking to you in person if you could ever do it, but you shouldn't be bending over backwards to do it or anything like that. Again, thank you for coming and get those assignments in, and looking forward to the next section. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.